friends are getting married, but only my boyfriend is invited to the wedding. That's messy.
That doesn't sound like it's going to lead to any sort of bad situations.
Mm-hmm. Throwaway, because I've had my main for long enough that it's not as anonymous as it could be, and I would like to remain so as much as possible here. So for context, I, 23 female, have known this guy, 24 male, I guess I'll call him Roger, for 6 years now. He and I were put in a musical ensemble together our first year of college, and we stayed in it for 4 years. By the way, this comes from Leper Brilliant 5385 on the OK Storytime subreddit. This group is also where I met my boyfriend, 24 male, and where my boyfriend met Roger also. There were a couple other guys in the group, and we were all and have remained pretty good friends, especially since the other 4, including my boyfriend, are in a band together. I wasn't excluded from this group. I just really wasn't interested in this time commitment, so I declined to join when they started out. They have actually become pretty well known in our local scene. They're a really talented group. Anyways, on to the current situation. Roger has been with his fiancée, 22 female, since before I met him. And when she came to the same school we were in, all the rest of us in the group became pretty friendly with her. I wouldn't really consider her a friend. We have no beef as far as I'm aware. We just aren't really close, and we only really talk at shows. I do like her, though, and we always make a point of saying hi to each other when we see each other and having a friendly chat. So my boyfriend and I have known these guys literally the same amount of time. We spent all of college with Roger seeing each other at least twice a week for this group, although it was usually much more. And we still hang out with them sometimes outside of the band scene. So Roger is getting married to his fiancée this summer. I, of course, wished them both congratulations when I heard the news of their engagement. A couple months ago, we got the save the date in the mail. It was addressed to only my boyfriend, which I thought was a bit odd, but it was the only save the date. But it was only the save the date, so I didn't really think much of it. Put it on the fridge. Well, last week, the wedding invite came. It was again addressed to just my boyfriend. We opened it, and there was no indication of even a +1 or anything, which I really don't think I should be a +1 for my boyfriend. I feel I should be invited on my own merit. That is, regardless, I think even if you don't really like her, you can't not invite this person that you've known for the same amount of time as the boyfriend, or at least, at least give him a +1.
This person, if they're going out of their way to cause a problem here.
Yeah.
There's no way they're not.
Yeah.
They had
this is
to
just
have
messy.
known this was going to cause a problem.
This is just messy. My boyfriend said that maybe they just addressed it to him because we live together. But that's exactly my point.
Right.
We live together, so it's for both of us. It should be addressed to both of us. Otherwise, I assume mail addressed to him is his. I'm honestly incredibly hurt by this. I guess it's fine if they don't really see us as friends, but I still feel like the fact that they know my boyfriend and I both live here, and they know I'm expecting to be invited, seeing as everyone else from this old group is making this feel like a real punch in the gut. So I guess my question is twofold, actually. Am I the a-hole for being offended by this in the first place? And would I be the a-hole if I asked them why I wasn't invited? And there is an update, but what do you think about those last two questions?
Well, I think in terms of being the a-hole of being offended that you weren't on the. I think given the context, it's a wedding.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you're gonna send the invitation here, you why isn't both of our names on it?
Yeah,
it's
why wouldn't?
It's like it's like you're being so unclear, but it's almost like it's like you're trying to do it like. Are you being unclear by accident? Or are you trying to make a point of telling me I don't want you there? It's like, it feels very weird.
I used it to previously ask about the situation on Am I the A-hole a couple months back, but as the event is approaching, my fiance is starting to make me question if I'm actually reading the situation right, and I just would really like to get some other takes on the situation. So to summarize my previous post, we have friends unsure on that one. Getting married this weekend. The question of my last post was about the fact that my name was not on the invitation that was sent to my fiance's in my apartment. My fiance and I met each other at the same time as we met the groom, and we got together about a year and some change later. We worked pretty closely in a musical group throughout school, and then my fiance and the other members of that group decided to continue and form their own band. I was not excluded from this, just was not particularly interested in the time commitment, and I don't regret that decision because they are busy MFers. But being that my fiance and I are still together, I still see the groom and his bride-to-be quite often. We've never had any beef as far as I know, and we always have friendly conversation and say hello to each other, like each other's stuff on Instagram and whatnot. Given the background of our relationship and the fact that my fiance and I have lived together for 3 years, and they sent the invitation to the apartment that we share, the fact that my name was not on the invitation says to me that I am not invited. My fiance kept trying to say like, oh, maybe they didn't know they were supposed to put your name on it too, or insisting it was a mistake because maybe someone else wrote the invites. To which I told them they would have written the invites based on the names they were given.
Right.
I asked if I would be the a-hole if I asked them why I wasn't invited, to which I was told I would be. And I was probably right I wasn't invited.
What?
Oh, by Reddit?
What?
I don't think you would be the a-hole.
Dude, it's like, that's why sometimes people who are
Yeah.
just like chronically online,
Yeah.
like don't remember that you can just ask people questions and have a conversation.
Yeah.
They're just like, no, you're
Yeah.
not invited, and that's probably because you suck. And it's like, what? Just ask. It's not that big of a deal.
Though others did agree on how insanely rude it was of them. I accepted that answer, and while I still feel the whole thing was rude, I've let it go, and I don't plan to talk badly about them or to them or cause any drama because it's up to them who's at their wedding. They won't be at mine. My fiance accepted I was right about the situation after another person from this group also recently sent out save the dates for his wedding, and both our names were on the invite. And I pointed out to him a month before we'd received an invite from one of my fiance's friends I'd only met a couple times, and both of our names were on the invite. But I digress. The purpose for today's post is that the wedding is this weekend. For some reason, my fiance keeps asking me if I'm going. Apparently, he asked the groom and he was told verbally that I'm invited. But given the fact that my name was not on the invitation, nor was it on the save the date we received earlier, I really can't just go off of that as enough evidence that I am welcome there.
Well, I think
Then-
you can.
I don't know. I think you can have a conversation then. If your partner literally asked, say, like, was like, hey, is she invited? And they said yes. I think you could definitely have a conversation with them now and be like, hey, I just like was wondering why it wasn't on the invite. And maybe they'll say like, oh, we just like didn't even think.
Did he ask though? Is
The
he just
boyfriend,
saying
or is he
that?
just saying that? I
Because
don't
why?
know.
Like, I don't know. I don't understand the resist. As soon as I would
Yeah.
have heard like, oh yeah, I talked to the groom and he said that you're invited
I'd have
and
been
of
like,
course
oh,
you can
sure.
come. I'd be like, oh okay.
Yeah.
It's problem over.
I think, yeah, but I don't know. I think maybe all of these Reddit people have gotten into Opie's head.
Yeah,
perhaps.
probably.
I really believe that if I was invited after my fiance asked why my name wasn't on the invitation, one of them should have reached out directly to me if they are actually expecting me to show up. That is true.
That
is true.
Definitely true.
I think if someone reached out to me and was like, hey, like, is my partner invited? And I was like, oh my God, of course. Like, I'm so sorry. I didn't even think.
That is true, yeah.
But they haven't. And for some reason, my fiance believes they're expecting me to be there. And he keeps saying he doesn't want to have to explain to people why I'm not there. And I keep telling him there isn't anything to explain. I wasn't invited. But here's where I'm conflicted. I truly do not want to start drama surrounding their wedding. I respect their decision not to invite me if that's how they want their day to be. I don't think anyone should ever have to invite someone to their wedding that they don't want to. But I also am fully aware that there are going to be several people there who are close to my fiance and I as a couple who are going to wonder why I'm not there. And it may cause a fuss if anyone asks the bride and groom directly. Which I realize may come off as main character syndrome, and I don't really think people will be that concerned about where I am. But my fiance and I go everywhere together, so my absence will definitely be noticed by our friends, and some of them aren't good at knowing when to just let things be. And so I genuinely have no idea what to do here. Here are the options I can see right now. Number 1, take my fiance's word as it is, that they do want me there despite everything saying the opposite, and show up, risking being unwelcome and possibly upsetting them on their wedding day. Don't go, number 2, come up with a fake story for my fiance to tell everyone so that nobody will try to go poking for gossip. Number 3, don't go, tell my fiance to either just state the truth that I wasn't invited, or he can come up with the story on his own if he's not comfortable with that.
What? How is there not a fourth option
Where
of
you talk to them?
ask a question?
Yeah, I think we could communicate a little bit more.
You could literally solve this entire mystery with one sentence on a phone call. Hey, am I invited to your wedding?
Yeah.
Done.
Done.
Yes or no, right
Done.
there. Then you figured it out.
I'm leaning towards option 3, which honestly does feel kind of petty. And my reasoning is that if they didn't want people to ask why I'm not there, they should have invited me to be there.
I'm sorry. It's just funny that it was like after being like, you could do this with one sentence. She's like, and I'm going to pick the most complicated possible solution to this problem.
Which definitely is a bit petty. But I just don't see why I should lie for them when they don't even respect me as my fiance's long-term partner who they have spent many years getting to know, let alone as a friend to them. What do you guys think? Is there another option here where I don't feel like I'm being a doormat while also avoiding coming across as an a-hole? Communication.
Why is it like we're at a point now where people think that just asking a question
is like the worst
you're
thing in the world.
A-hole.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you doing it's like people are so frozen and like, I don't want to be perceived this way. It's like, just move with the energy that you want to move with.
Like you're not going to be an a-hole if you're coming from like just a curiosity.
Right.
Also, there's one detail I couldn't figure out where to fit in here, but when we initially received the invitation, the second envelope for the wedding addressed to just my fiance, I talked to a friend of mine about it who vaguely knows who the couple is because I wanted to ask someone who wouldn't bring it up to them if I was overreacting. And she ended up telling me last month that she found out a different friend of hers who was really good friends with the bride all through school and thought they were friends was also not invited.
Okay, the plot thickens here.
Yikes.
What's going on? Is she like burnt?
She's like burning bridges left and right.
Burning all these bridges?
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know if that makes much difference in the overall take of the situation, but it does seem relevant. Edit, if you aren't going to read the post, don't comment. I wanted to ask them for clarification, but since I've never been in this position before, I wanted to ask others who maybe have more experience with weddings how I should ask. Everyone said that I would be an absolute a-hole for even considering asking it's their wedding, as it's their wedding, and it is obvious I'm not invited, and putting them in that position to have to tell me that to my face would be wrong. But again, I think it's okay.
Yeah, no,
it's fine.
All of that is
if you're
so
genuinely
wrong.
confused, it's okay to like ask for clarification.
Yeah, and if they already didn't invite you, guess what? They're not gonna feel bad about telling you again.
No, they're gonna be like, yeah, we like had a small wedding, we couldn't fit it. They'll say something like that.
Dude, imagine that's just all this is.
Yeah.
This is just like, oh, we just didn't have enough space.
Mm-hmm.
And all it would take is one phone call.
Yeah. Instead of getting mad at me for asking for advice on handling the situation, you should have joined in the first time I asked, and then maybe the reaction you would have received would demonstrate to you why I thought it was inappropriate to ask.
Nah,
Is OP calling out Redditors?
She's just calling out Redditors, but also it's like, no, call out yourself
Call
still.
yourself,
Come on,
yeah.
OP. Take a little responsibility.
Edit 2. Also, I apologize that previous post I mentioned isn't anywhere to be found. Thank you to everyone who had actual advice and helped me figure out the right decision to me. To everyone who's been super condescending about me not asking them, how would you feel if you didn't invite someone to your wedding and they confronted you about it? I get you should be upfront with them, but some people just don't want to risk the drama, and I guess that's fine too. It's their day. It's not really my place to kick up a fuss about it. If it turns out that it was a mistake, then they can explain that to me and we can laugh about it and move on. But if I am in fact right, it would be really crappy to them to make a fuss about it when the day has nothing to do with me. This isn't about this generation too scared to talk to people. It's actually about having common courtesy to realize when it is appropriate to make a situation about me and when it is not.
Are you doing this on the day of their wedding while she's at the altar?
You wouldn't be doing it on the day of the wedding.
Because that's the only situation. You're describing this like you asking if you're invited is going to single-handedly destroy the entire wedding.
Also, like, presumably you're not that important if they say, oh yeah, you're not invited to the wedding. They're not, and you're like, well, I'm not coming. They're not going to be devastated.
Disconnect. I don't get that.
This is one of those situations where it is not. So I wanted to know the best way to make sure I uphold the fact that I don't want to be a source of drama for them surrounding the wedding. I did get a lot of good perspectives about possible mistakes that could have happened here, and I'm super happy to accept that as a reality if they explain that to me. But for right now, I'm just going to quietly accept the situation as is and find something fun to do this weekend instead. Update 2.
Yeah, let's get into it.
It won't let me link the original post for some reason, but it's on my profile. This is not a very interesting update, but several people asked for one, so I thought I would just explain how things went yesterday. So first of all, I'm very glad I didn't go.
Oh.
Okay.
Ooh.
My fiance was quite unhappy when he came home from the wedding and told me I was on to something. Okay, you know what? Guess you were right. Turns out I was not the only partner that was missing, but my fiance is still a bit confused by the whole thing because it struck him as really weird about the people who didn't have their partners there. Plenty of people did ask about me and where I was. My fiance just kind of generically told them I couldn't make it. But the bride and groom did not ask about me. Though the groom came up to my fiance and said something about, can't wait for your wedding. You're not invited. Yearly pop. Which is what made him realize I was right about the whole thing. None of the bridal party, many of whom we knew well, asked about me, which also stood out to him considering how many of the guests did. One thing that strikes me as odd is that my fiance confirmed there was no designated seat for me, but there were a lot of empty seats. So that isn't like, there isn't like a, oh, there's too many people, we can't invite that.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely not that.
Which leads me to wonder if they knew how entirely confused and weird this was, and they were preparing for people's spouses that weren't invited to show up and play it off by having a seat available. I don't know. That's pretty much it. The whole thing honestly feels even more confusing after the wedding, but I do at least think it's pretty clear that I was right and made the right decision in not going. No real drama happened, and I'm not going to really bother to try and find out more from them or from anyone else, but it is disappointing to say the least. My fiance is pretty disappointed too to find out how little these friends respect not just me as a person, but me as his partner. But that's just how it goes sometimes, I guess. And it also, the way that we go sometimes is live every weekday at 3 p.m. PST on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. Just tap our profile.
Yep, just give it a tap.
That's the way we go.
So, well, sometimes it might take, but just tap until you're in the live. Let's
just
put it
keep
that
tapping.
Way.
And there is a little bit left of the story.
I'm kind of flabbergasted here that maybe the best move was not to make the phone call.
I guess you were right.
I do kind of disagree though, where she goes, I guess you didn't have any drama that like leaked outside of yourself, but this entire time where you were like debating like whether or not or what it is or what it isn't, I feel like that in and of itself is like a form of drama.
Yeah.
But it was like just for you. And I think you could have just avoided it all and like, I don't know. I feel like if you called this person who clearly, I guess, doesn't like you or something, we're still kind of unsure on exactly what that was.
Why they didn't invite you.
But I feel like you would have picked up on if you called them or he, y'all called them together.
Yeah.
And said, hey, so we just wanted to confirm, like, is there, was her name missing on, like, is she invited or what? And based on, I'm sure if this person hated you, you'd be able to pick up the vibe.
Yeah.
And then be like, okay, so I guess I don't need to go to that. But
Guess
either way.
I'm not going. But either way, don't invite them to your wedding. They don't deserve it.
Don't do that.
But there is a little bit more to this story. I really just wish they had been direct, even if the reason they gave was a lie, that I wasn't invited. I would have understood if they said it was a matter of numbers, but the way they went about this just seems so pathetic and cowardly to me. But it appears as if we weren't the only long-term couple they did this to. So I think it says a lot more about them than it does about me, for sure. Thanks to everyone who gave advice and offered different perspectives. I'm super thankful I posted here because you guys really helped me feel confident in my read on the situation, and you all helped me make the right decision to avoid the most drama or embarrassment. And that is the end of that story.
Well, good job avoiding that drama. I guess I would have made it more dramatic, but I guess I
guess we were all living for the drama.
I'm just not afraid of that phone call, you know?
Yeah.
Not afraid to make a phone call. I think there's one more story in this.
There is one more story.
Yeah, there is one more.